Good afternoon, podcast world. It's Podcast Friday on FNO InsureTech, and I am your host, Rob Beller, along with your other host,
Co-host.
Okay, I'm all right with that.
Yeah. We have host Rob Beller, and then we have co-host Lee
Okay.
Boyd.
All right. Okay.
It makes sense.
So it's FNO InsureTech starring Rob Beller. Is that what you're trying to say?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We all know our place here, Rob.
Also starring
Also starring
Lee Boyd. Okay. All right. I'm okay with that. Are we done today?
We're done.
We're here, folks, for a more serious reason, and that is that we have a terrific interview today with our friend Pascal Begin, who is the senior leader of product management at Symbility, which is now a CoreLogic company. What do you think of that, Lee?
I think we're in for a real treat today because he is a guy who was on the ground floor, basically opened his computer, started Symbility with some co-founders. Really, I hope that we're going to get to learn a lot about the history of Symbility, where they're going, and maybe a little bit about how he's going to be able to use the relationship and the new ownership there of CoreLogic in with the actual platform itself.
As well as I want to ask him about his relatively open platform.
Yes.
And why that is and what that means for him today.
Yeah, I mean, they are known as the open platform. Anybody can integrate with them. Not everybody is integrated with them, but you always hear everybody say, "Oh yeah, Symbility, we can integrate with them, no problem." So that's interesting. I don't know what their mindset is behind that. I don't know why they decided to be that platform, but they are. So I'm pretty interested about hearing that.
Okay, so without further ado, we will go to our interview with Pascal Begin from CoreLogic Symbility, the senior leader of project management. Hey, everybody in podcast world. We're here with our special guest today, an old friend of mine, not old, but an old friend, Pascal Begin, senior leader of product management at CoreLogic Symbility. Full disclosure, I threatened Pascal that we were going to do this entire interview in French. Isn't that true?
Yes. So, yeah, I believed it till the end, really. And it's only last week when you said, "Nah, it's going to be in English." I was really disappointed. I was hoping that we could do it in French, but the problem is I don't even know the words in French for the insurance industry. So I think I'm better in English anyway.
Okay, well, that's okay because I don't pretty much know any words in French.
I know none.
So we're kind of even, but I loved the idea. It was novel, yes.
Maybe one day when you're going to export your podcast in
Okay.
other countries.
Okay, I like that. Maybe you can translate all of our podcasts.
Ooh, that's
I
a
can
good
do
idea.
that.
So, enough of this goofing around. Let's talk about Symbility. Can you give us a minute or two or 30 seconds on what you do at Symbility currently, what your role is and what you're in charge of?
Sure. So I've been in charge of pretty much the whole product line at Symbility. So all around property, because at some point we did have a health division, but I was always and I'm still focused on property. So like driving the roadmap, the new features, new products we want to add, how we can solve problem in the property industry, strategy, and also integration with technical partners and InsureTech.
That sounds like a big job.
It is a lot of
Uh-huh.
responsibility and a lot of challenges in picking the right things to do.
So, we're going to talk about how you figure out what are the right things to do, because I know that's something that has been on Lee's mind. But I want to take a step. I want to take a couple steps backward into the past. You were a co-founder of Symbility, correct?
Exactly. Yes.
So tell us about that, how it got started, and give us a minute on the origin story of Symbility.
Yeah. So I was introduced to the industry by two brothers of mine. So our father was not in the industry at all. He was a dentist, but I had one of my brother started a carpet cleaning industry, and the other one starting the selling equipment in the industry. And with my IT degree, I quickly saw the need in the industry to get like technology solutions. So I started my first company with one of the Symbility co-founders, so Mark Olivier Wynn. We started our first company in 96, 97, and then quickly moved into the restoration industry. And we met our third co-founder, Eric and Backer, in 97. And I'm not going to go into the details, but we are the companies that we had at that point went in two different directions. And then 2001 came in and said, okay, let's start something new. And this is when we started Symbility. So we've been in this industry for a very long time. And it was we felt the need to have good technology in the industry, and that's what we did. So 2001 is when we came back as a one and started this company.
So what was missing? What did you feel like you needed to fix or fill that need?
They were like companies that were um, using technology back then, even if they had access to computer, they were disconnected. Um, so you had insurance company that were using their claim management system, and on a claim there are a lot of different participants. You can have IA firms, IAs, different type of contractors. Here in Canada, we do have also independent estimator or appraisers, so you can easily have 6, 7 different participants on a claim.
Right.
And if you look at the technology that was available in 2000, they were great, but they were all disconnected. They were all working in their own spot. So you had your data as a contractor, you had your data as an IA, but nothing was connected. So yeah, every time you were assigned on a claim, you had to basically recreate the claim on your side, type in your data, and then the only thing you could do is print and send by ICS or whatever the courier you were using.
Mhm.
So everything, the technology was there to create the estimate, but there was no way to exchange it. So our goal right from the start was to create a common platform where everybody could exchange the data and work on a single claim instead of working on 6, 7 different copy of the same claim. So that was one of it. The other one was um, the fact that people were building estimates from their office. So, like a car, you can bring your car in the garage, but you cannot bring the property in the garage. So, you had to go on site and capture the data on site using a pad and a pencil and paper and all these things, and then come back at the office and build the estimate at the office. And first thing you know, you're missing information, and you need to go
Mhm.
back and capture the data and go and so on. So what we that's the second issue that we saw, and our goal was to create a common platform solution, but also equipped with a handheld solution that allow someone to build the estimate or capture the claim data on site.
Wow. So it's really safe to say that you have followed your goal, your initial hope. It sounds like that's exactly the product y'all have made. So really, no changing. Is that right?
That's exactly it. And the first, so we started to work on the mobile solution back in 97, 98. It was called Pocket Scope, and it was
Okay.
from a company called Kira. And Kira was founded by Eric and Backer, the third co-founder of Symbility. And we were way ahead of time, probably like 10 years too early. So, and even with the claim platform, the fact that we were hosting insurance company data on our server. It wasn't our servers, it was on hosting facilities, but still, uh, insurance company were in 2000, like 4 or 5, when we were ready to launch the solution to the market. Insurance company were not ready to this. That was before the cloud even existed. So the word cloud did not exist back in 2004,
You were
2005.
you,
So
you
we're
guys were
selling
ahead of your
something that
time.
did not exist. Yep.
You were ahead of your time.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
that could be an issue for people that come up with new technology. Is adoption can take a long time because we're ahead of the curve.
So you used to have a product MSB, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
Was your product called MSB?
No, MSB was a partner. So the um, the product uh, that we developed first are we had Claims Connect and Mobile Claims, and Claims Connect came actually later. So when we started the company, the platform was called Symbility.net, and the mobile piece was called Mobile Claims. And it's only like 4 years later that we renamed Symbility.net to Claims Connect, so it makes better sense for people.
So
MSB is a partner that we started to work with in 2010.
so back to the origin story. Um, how did James get involved, and then what happened? So you're in the late '90s. You're figuring this out. You have some great ideas. Then what happens?
So what happens is from day one, we knew just by ourselves. So three kids, we knew that we would not be able to, even if our goal was to really compete against our Exactimate, our goal, we knew that we couldn't do it just by ourselves. So we had the idea, we had the knowledge, we had the capacity to create a great solution. And our goal was to build a prototype that we could then uh, use to find investors. And that's what we did. So we built the prototype for a couple of years, and then we used our relationship. And Eric and Backer, the third co-founder, he knew James from a previous life. So he's one of the first that we met, and we showed him the solution, which he fell in love in. And this is when he introduced it to another of his friend, and they became investors in the company. And that's when, in 2004, I think, what happened is when we became like public, and this is when James came in.
So probably as a kid starting it off, you thought you'd be on to doing something else by now. You probably didn't realize that 20 years later you'd still be in the insurance business, huh?
No, and I wanted to retire at 40 years old. I missed my target, so
Okay.
I guess I'm
Okay.
stuck in the insurance industry now for another 20 years.
Well, we've kind of we're right there with you. It sucks you in, and it keeps you. But it ta
Exactly, and yeah, it does the same well, for the two of us. But I have a feeling that it does it for a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely true. So today you're in Quebec, but everybody else is someplace else, right?
Well, that's the thing. So when we founded the company, Eric was from Toronto, and Mark and myself were from Montreal. And it was really clear right from the start that we would have an office here in Montreal. So the whole development of the Symbility property solutions is done here in Montreal by, believe it, French Canadian. So but we are renowned to be really good programmers. So we have an office about 35, 40 employees here in Montreal, and it's growing, especially now that we're all part of CoreLogic. And this is where we built it. So I'm in an office with other people and other product managers as well.
That is neat. I like how it's still there, and you're right. I've always heard that there's really good programmers up in that area.
Yep.
Uh, I am interested in one thing, really at its core. Whenever you hear Symbility, you always hear customers and clients saying they are an open platform. They can integrate with anybody, and we can integrate with them, and they're open. As where we hear sometimes others are not. Has that always been at your core? wanting to integrate with other companies, or did that come later on?
No, I think it's in our blood. It's I, w- I think it's in our culture. And first, because first we're French Canadian in a North American English only like continent, and we're also very close to the US. So uh, I could not start a business like this and survive if I only do business in Quebec. I could do it only in Canada, but it's a small market. And for about the same effort, I can expand my business in the US. So we have that open mind thing on our side. And I think it's part of it. So we know we cannot be good at everything. We're good at what we do, but there are others like us that are good in their own things. And we were open from the start to be able to work with different pricing database, different currency, and why not different technologies? And that has been like this from day one.
So as a product manager, you're basically a problem solver, right? I mean, isn't that what you're dealing with all the time? Is that customers are saying, "I have this need" or "I have this problem"? Is that talk to us about what a product manager does?
That's exactly it. And even before I started in this business, I had a job as a student in the old port here in Montreal. And I worked for this gentleman for 3 years. And he told me at the end, he knew I was going to have my own career in IT business or something like that. And he said to me, he said, "You're not with you, you don't have any problems. You only have solutions." So I think it's something I like solving problems, and and that it's not a coincidence that I'm solving problems like 25 years later. I like solving problems, and that's what we do. So what we do is look at market problems, and there are a lot of them, and these problems change every day depending on the new technology available or the evolution of the world, and we need to just listen to the market, and our goal is to find the best way to solve those problems, and that's what I do every day.
But one of the interesting things about your company is that you have a big, relatively large international footprint, correct?
Yes.
And of course, insurance varies from country to country. It's regular, obviously, great differences in regulation, just state to state, but certainly country to country. So that must be I mean, that is a big problem, right? You're dealing with all these different government organizations.
Yes, and it is well. The good news is, as I said earlier, is that because of our situation, because we knew to survive, we had to offer this solution not only to Quebec but also to Canada and the U.S. From the start, we created a very flexible solution. So it was multilingual, multi-currency from the start. So it's easy to export. But now we're facing another problem where UK, Germany, South Africa, Australia, they all have their own way of dealing with claims. And it's similar, but it's different. And we need to have someone like in all of these markets that knows the market, but also that can listen to the market. And the big challenge is trying to have one solution because we don't have different solutions for all of these markets. We only have one solution that fits all, but that has some sort of a little dashboard or switchboard where we can activate some features or deactivate some features based on the different market. But it adds a lot of complexity to our solution. You're totally right. And we don't want a solution that works. Yeah, it's not perfect for the market. We want a solution that works as if it was built for this market.
You know, I always wondered about that. I always thought that maybe it was a different product, but it appears to be the same product, like you're saying. But within that, you have a lot of requests. I bet you have a lot of problems you need to solve, and I'm wondering, as a product manager, how do you create these hierarchies for problems that need to be solved right now, and problems that need to be solved next quarter or next year, when I'm sure everybody brings a problem to you and says this needs to be fixed tomorrow. What is your workflow there?
Yeah, it's a lot of headaches. So and we evolved. We It's not something you learn at school. You learn by doing it every day, and I guess you get better at doing it. Um, so initially, we were really client driven. So we were listening instead of being market listeners, we were customers listeners. And as a new company, that's what you do. So you listen to our first big customer in was Allstate in Canada. They're a pretty big company here. So were the
Wow.
one that told us what to do in the solution. So we solved their problem. And then by solving their problem, we were able to sell the solution to other Canadian company. And then we had a couple of US clients, and they started to push their requests. And then we came up to a point where we thought we had a good enough solution. And when we signed up like a very large insurer, he ate the whole capacity that we had just solving their problem. But we quickly realized that we were going the wrong direction because we were only listening to our customers and we were not listening to the market. And the software became almost customized for these customers.
Sure.
And that's not something you want. So we took a step back and said we need to change the way we're doing it. So instead of listening to sales folks or listening to account managers,
Hey, wait a
us as
minute. Wait
product,
a minute.
yeah.
Wait. Don't knock sales folks.
Sales folks.
Go on. Can't do that.
Well, it's something.
That's not allowed on this podcast. Forget it.
So you need to listen to them. Plus, you need to listen yourself about what the problems are. And so, what we built is a solution that where we can kind of uh, type in all the ideas. So everything that we are listening from the market, we put that in one system, and we score it. So instead of listening to the one that has the louder voice, what we're doing is we came up with an engine that calculates the score, and based on that score, we can decide what to put in based on the capacity. So it looks simple when you look at it now, but it took a while for us to come up with that solution. So that's one thing, and it solves the problems that people know they have. It doesn't solve the other part where as product managers you have to be a visionary as well. Is that an
Sure.
English word, Rob?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You did good.
Okay.
Here,
So
let me
you have
translate. Visionary. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
So you have to say, okay, and I like the quote from Henry Ford where he said, if I was listening to the folks, I would have done like I would have built faster horse and not a car. So we have to do the same.
Yeah.
If we
Right.
ask people about their problem, they're going to talk about something they know. They won't talk about something they don't know. So this is when we need to look at other industry, look at the technology outside what we're doing, and just use our vision and say in the future, well, this is how things will. So instead of solving a problem today, I can leapfrog over that and say, if I do this and I release
Mhm.
that in 5 years, I'm going to be solving all of these problems in one shot.
Good point.
And so it's a mix of vision and a mix of listening to the market problems.
So I consider you guys an InsureTech company. Would you agree with that? I
Yeah,
mean,
and
you're a
the
technology company in insurance, so right?
yeah, and the word is new, but not not what we're doing. So I'm an InsureTech company. I've been doing it for close to 25 years now. Yes, totally.
But would you agree that the difference between InsureTech today and InsureTech 20 some years ago is that 20 some years ago there was four companies, I, so to speak. There were a few,
Yes,
whereas
and
today
yep,
it's a very full landscape. Do you agree with that? I mean,
totally. Yeah. So if we look at the total amount invested in the InsureTech today, it's so much more than what it was 20 years ago. I just wish I had like access to this if I started the company today instead of 20 years ago. So I think there were other more urgent problems to solve 24, 25 years ago with new technology. And I think the whole fintech uh, market solved their problem. And then the last one they wanted to solve is property claim, which is probably the hardest part to solve because there's
Agreed.
nothing common between like this house and your neighbor's house.
So, so as a veteran in the insurtech world, you've been in it for a long time, and you look out over this landscape today, and honest to goodness, there's more companies, more insurtech companies today than you have time to even find or know about. There's so many. What do you think about that? What is it something that was waiting to happen? Is it overdue? Does it make you excited? I mean, how do you think about it?
Yeah, it, it depends on the day. Sometimes I'm worried because I said, wow, we have so much competition now. And how is my company going to survive? Then I look at how much effort it takes to just survive and succeed in this market. And it, it reminds me when we started, like when we had a product ready to sell 20, well, not 20 years ago, but almost like 15 years ago, 2004, 2005. This is when we started to demo our solution. Everyone we demoed to was amazed. They wanted to use it right away, but then you start to roll out and implement, they start using it, and then this is when the issues happen. I think these insurtech that we're seeing, they have a very exciting solution, but I think it only solves one little piece of the whole claim process. And and it's it's when I think about that I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, this is good. The good news is we have an open platform. We should look at the different pieces and try to see how we can work, and they can only succeed if they are integrated. And the good news is we have that platform that allow them to be integrated. So when I calm down, I find it very exciting because I see all that we can do and all we can do to help our customers, which are the insurance company. But at the end, everything we can do to help the policyholder, and that at the end, that's what we're doing. We're just helping people getting their life back.
Well, I think it's really, I think you have a great point, and that is you guys have had this, like we were talking about before. You've had this open kind of, you've had an open platform and opened integrations all along, and now the the rest of the technology world has caught up with you, particularly on the claims side, right? They need a platform that they can integrate with,
Yes,
and and
you,
and and
yeah,
and, and so we have a nice relationship with Exact, and we obviously, as I'm sure you do too, you have a lot of respect for them. They're formidable, um, but I think you guys have been ahead of the curve there, and you probably didn't know what it was going to mean in the long run. But I mean, look at today. I mean, I'm sure you have many people knocking at your door saying, "Please let me integrate with you."
yeah. I think it's one of the decision you take early on, and you don't know exactly what's going to be the impact. But yeah, as you said, we didn't have it to change our culture. We were like this from day one, and now it's a benefit to our clients and to those insurtech. And you have no clue how because I'm somehow the entry door for integration at our company, how many like calls I receive. It's every week that I receive
Hmm.
calls from a new insurtech trying to, because they know the only way they can survive is by connecting and exchanging and pushing their data to a platform that can then aggregate the whole thing and use it. So, yep.
So how do you deal with that? Do you hold them hostage for a king's ransom, or do you have to evaluate it one at a time?
We evaluate one at a time. And so what we do is, as a group, so as a product group, we have a biweekly call with a partner or a technology. And then we have them present their technology, and then we debrief for another like 30, 45 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
then that is kind of the first step into a process of a decision to integrate. And we wish we could integrate more, but we have to be careful. We used to integrate with a lot of partners, and some of them no longer exist. So we have the maturity now to know when to do it and when it's a good time and when to wait, and that's like that comes with, I guess, experience.
Sure.
All of this is really getting me to wonder what is on your roadmap for Symbility. What do we have to look forward to? What is, maybe on your next release or coming
I
up
think
in the near future?
um, so. We see three like big challenges that insurers are facing today, and that comes back to what I was talking about. So we have to listen to the market. And so customer experience is definitely one of them. So people are used to do things one way now. Every day they deal with technology or they deal with transaction a specific way, using their phone or using the computer, and property insurance is somewhere else. It's not there yet. So that's something we know we have to fix. So that's one of our focus. The other one is we're seeing a shortage of experienced staff, adjusters mostly, and that's a huge problem for the industry. So you have insurance company trying to get their claim solved, but they don't have enough people to do it, and especially with uh, years like we had last year and the year before with the whole catastrophe and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another problem the insurance industry is facing. And the other
Mm-hmm.
one is like the commoditization of the insurance. So they have to compete in a very competitive world. And our goal is to help them do that. And one of the focus that we're stuff that we've been doing now for a couple of years is helping into like doing what we call virtual adjusting. So helping move like the
Right.
experienced folks, instead of having them drive from one loss site to another where they lose like 45% of their time. Why don't we take them and put them into an office and then send someone less experienced in the field or the policyholder himself and try to solve the claim from the office instead of having that person on site. And that is our big focus. It has been for a couple of years, and it's going to continue be like that until we feel like we have a good enough solution. And we are going to do that using like our own technology, the stuff we built, but also partnering with the different InsureTech available out there. So like Wiggle Look and Hover and all these technology are
Right.
new InsureTech. These are great to solve that kind of problem.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And we can speak firsthand. We've done numerous virtual claims using Symbility, all aspects of it, and everything you've written and everything we've been able to use has been very, very beneficial in us getting more claims
Yep.
virtually
And
adjusted. So
and what
kudos on that.
the now that we're part of CoreLogic, what's exciting is we can now look at the new trend, which is artificial intelligence, and we can now use it. What
Right.
artificial intelligence requires is a depth of data, like good quality data on property, and you cannot have AI if you don't have good data. And the number one company on property data is CoreLogic. So we're very excited to be part of them. And not only we have access to the data, but we also have access to a team of over 100 data scientists that's going to help
Wow.
us just, and we've started, and it's so exciting to see what this will bring to us, but also to our clients. So the ability to predict, automate, and make virtual adjusting even better.
Yeah. We've said this before on the podcast that one of our friends, who's a really smart guy, says the person with all the data is going to win.
Mhm.
And you guys are now married up to a data company. They have tons and tons of data, and how that, I'm sure as product manager, that's you're licking your chops, right? You're very excited about that.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
we can help
Well,
improve the data, but they can help us automate. So a lot. So this is. So yeah, you asked the question before where we think it's going to go. Well, now virtual adjusting, data, artificial intelligence, automation. This is where it's going.
well, we really appreciate you
Absolutely.
giving us some time today, just so our audience knows, because we never talk about these kinds of things. We had some technical difficulties that will limit our time today, and I apologize to our audience in advance for that. But I also have one shout out that I want to do, Pascal, that I don't think you'll mind. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Hey, John Cost, how you doing?
Hey, John. Good to have you on the podcast. Well, hopefully you're going to
It,
listen
it
to it. So
Hopefully, he
yeah.
better. I'm telling you what, it was, and the reason that I shout out John Cost is two reasons. One is for those of us who've been around Symbility for a long time and know how important John was to the company, and what a great guy he was. And John Cost actually introduced you and
Yep.
I years ago.
He's my mentor. So I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't of him.
Yes, we all miss you, John. So please come back to the insurance side.
I like it.
Okay. Hey, Pascal, thanks so much for being with us, and we hope that we have a chance to visit again soon.
Thank you for inviting me. That was a really good interview.
Pleasure. Well, Lee, another really interesting interview, and this time with somebody who's legitimately an innovator in the whole insurtech space.
Yes, it was a great interview, and I always like to hear the backstory. I've been around Symbility for a really long time, but it's neat to hear about its founding, who started it, and then why. But what I thought was interesting is that they've stayed on the same path. A lot of these
Hmm.
interviews have taken us where they started one way and then they
And
changed.
pivot.
Yeah, they never pivoted. They were able to stay strong. And
Hmm.
also during that interview, I was thinking there's not a lot of insurtech companies who are really out there in the estimatic market. We
Right.
haven't really run across that. It's
No.
it's kind of a stagnant market, and I say stagnant, but it's one that a lot of people haven't tried to break into.
Well, I think this may be that it's so locked up, right?
Yeah,
The competitors have enormous scale advantages.
right. And it is. I mean, it's a very difficult market to be a part of. I'm just thinking about all of the pricing, and now the main competitors out there are all international companies, so
Correct.
it is
Multi-billion dollar
multi-billion
players.
dollars. So it's not the easiest entry. You have insurtech companies coming in; they're trying to do, um, you know, management systems and organizational things like that. A part of what the big boys do, but it is neat that they've stayed on the same path and never pivoted.
Yeah, it's not to say that disruption can't occur. It's just I think the odds are stacked against him, which is, an interesting thought on the whole insurtech world is that a lot of these companies can come in and play in a space because they're not necessarily fighting against deeply entrenched uh, um, uh, incumbents who have required enormous investments from the incumbent insurers.
I
And
agree.
but like for somebody to change, as we know, as claims people who work with carriers that either are using the Symbility platform or the Exact platform, to make a change out of that, that's a very big, very expensive deal. Yes,
It is. It is. It's a very big deal. I started thinking whenever he was saying that he gets calls weekly from
right.
companies asking if they can integrate, and I thought, what an interesting thing. A lot of these startup companies, these startup insurtech companies, don't have a way in. They don't have the niche, and they
Hmm.
have to get attached
Hmm.
to one of the large integrated systems.
Hmm.
And I would imagine that he does get a lot of calls from some pretty far out insurtech companies trying to
Hmm.
do things just to say that they are integrated with a estimating software. I bet those are some pretty neat conversations.
Right. Well, we're big Symbility users at our company. We have many customers who use the product every day, and we work claims in it all the time. I mean, what do you have to say about it in brief?
Well, Symbility is a large platform. We have numerous clients who use it, and then we have numerous field adjusters who actually use it. It's a great product. It does a good job. We are really not at liberty to always pick our softwares. We're more mandated which softwares to use. But whenever we are asked to use Symbility, we're absolutely open to it because it is a large, integrated, user-friendly platform.
Okay, well, we thank Pascal for his generosity to be with us today. He's a great guy, by the way, who I always see at conferences, and we always have a really good time. So big thank you to him and to Symbility and CoreLogic for sharing him and making him available. And we will see you on our next episode of F&O InsureTech. What do you say, Lee?
Bye, everybody.